Welcome to the Deadly Addictions channel. Today, I'm going to be talking about Kraven the Hunter. So this is a movie that I was kind of anticipating, although my last run-in with Venom, The Last Dance, I think it's called, I kind of felt insulted by that movie. I did a podcast on it. I wasn't too happy. But I try to keep an open mind. Again, what state of mind am I in? I was in a good place. I was kind of excited. However, Kraven the Hunter feels dull and muted, and in more ways than one. Well, it's directed by J.C. Chandor, who I've never heard of. Some of the actors I know, well, Aaron Taylor Johnson, I actually liked him as Kraven. I thought he was pretty good, and the brother was okay. Who was the guy? Alexandro Nivola. Anyway, not one to go through all of these, but just to give an idea. Again, I didn't watch many trailers or read about things behind the scenes or, anything that really kind of spoiled the movie for me, but the movie kind of feels muted in a way that's down to the bone. And I mean, performances, scenes that develop when they should be a little bit, let's say, excitement in the scene or anger, or it just doesn't feel like it's really brought up to the notch that it's supposed to be. And I think there's a lot of editing involved and maybe reshoots. I did a quick thing on Wiki, but movie gets delayed and who knows how many test screenings in Sony's universe. I'm not really, I guess I'd say I'm a fan of like just what they tried to do with Venom in the beginning, but by the last one, it just felt so, I was actually annoyed and pissed at that movie. I'm not annoyed and pissed at this movie. I'm more disappointed that there was potential there. I think, Aaron Taylor Johnson's great as Kraven, looks the part. He's familiar with action. It's not like he's brought out of nowhere, out of the blue. He seems to somewhat embody the character in a way that is enjoyable. But again, when all the pieces are so just bland in a way, Russell Crowe's involvement, it has the feeling of going through the motions, getting it on film, and then you do it 3 or 4 times, you get the right take. This seems like it's one take, and not only is it just one take, but it's a take where the director said, look, tone it down, draw it out a little, don't put too much inflection in your voice, don't worry about the scene, don't worry, if you were running and you're in the middle of a fight, well, at the end, I guess it does get up to a notch. But in general, scenes where you've got connective tissue and you're trying to figure out this fucking plot, it's not really something that I, enjoy going through in that way. But again, it didn't annoy me. Like, I dare to say I liked it better than Venom, The Last Dance, or whatever the fuck that was. But a disappointment. I don't think this movie is, should have been put out the way it was. Let's get some, I don't know. Well, I guess there was reshoots and like this was the best they can do. I remember when I did the Morbius trailer, not trailer, but did I do a trailer reaction? I did do a couple back in the day. But when I did the podcast, I remember saying that this looks like a very talented editor did the best he could. And I actually enjoy Morbius. I'm not here to raise a flag and say it's a good movie or, but look, I fucking enjoyed Madam Web. I know that's not a good movie. So I can be entertained, and a part of me does just feel like, oh, I'm getting to see a comic character brought to life. And a really not famous one, well, maybe in the comic book world, Kraven is famous for what he was able to do with Spider-Man and his legacy, so to speak. This one has to do with, Sergei and his brother Dmitri, and their father, Russell Crowe. It's mostly in the beginning a flashback about how when Sergei, who becomes Kraven, and his brother are nearly killed by a lion. Sergei's mortally wounded. A woman and her granddaughter. There's some kind of, I don't know if it was a fucking prophecy or a foreseen with the tarot cards. But the woman has a liquid. It is, spoilers. It heals Kraven and gives him special powers. Not too groundbreaking in that sense, but it works for, what's going on. The father's trying to teach him a lesson. One brother's a little more outgoing than the other, and when it comes to the future, and you see that Kraven from his injection or his, rebirth is powerful, strong, fast, heals rapidly, that type thing, and he hunts criminals, and for the most part kills them in that sense. And the brother, who's not really, I don't know if he's like a stepbrother or something, but he's got to live with the dad, Russell Crowe, and Russell Crowe runs an operation, like a drug trafficking operation or something. Not very well put together in that sense, but you get the gist of it. They're young, they're mauled. Well, Sergei is. He grows up in the future, and he's fucking hunting poachers and shit like that. It gets dull at moments where someone made the decision to take a scene and not only put it in, and you gotta edit your movie and have a sequence that tells the story, but that almost tries to bore you by certain performances and inflections in their mannerisms and their voice. It just doesn't feel like it was ratcheted up enough to be a decent movie. Like it never had a chance in that sense. But again, 2 years of delays, who knows, reshoots. I'm not making an excuse, but I'm not even saying I like this fucking movie much. But damn, you had some good elements here. The aspect of the rhino, and I swear that actor's from Jurassic Park 3, the original trilogy, let's call it. And I kind of like him in a way, but it's just like a CGI effect that. Okay, so my first thought was, why is this guy wearing a backpack everywhere? And it's told immediately, like he's wearing a feed bag, let's say, to keep a progression of some sort of disease thing, which turns him into a rhino, makes his skin hard, but the pain is unbearable. So he wears this knapsack, this backpack, and it feeds the tube in, which was actually interesting callback later. And the looming Russell Crowe's the father behind the scenes type thing is just there enough to make you almost not forget he's in the movie, because it's, we get he's the overbearing father, criminal, and Sergei's love for his brother Dmitri, although he's a more meeker chameleon. He could mimic people's voices, and that's also brought back at the end. But you get this flashback, like I said, and again, you're getting performances that don't feel alive. They don't feel impactful, and it just starts to drain you in a way. Like, again, I've been in movies where I want it to fucking end. And this isn't kind of one of them, but damn, it doesn't help. I should be, well, I guess what is the alternative for me anyway? Annoy the fucking shit out of me with like Venom: The Last Dance, or try to bore me to death. And I don't even mean by set pieces with some action in it. It just feels wrong. But anyway, Kraven's brother gets kidnapped, or after Kraven because he's killing people, you get on his list and you're dead. The Rhino is center point in that department, and there's also like a foreigner guy who, like, I think he uses a fucking basilisk field or something like that, where he stops time for a bit. So he's obviously an empowered human, but it feels like there's no cohesive story. Even when Kraven meets the little girl who saved his life, older now and a lawyer, some things just don't feel like they work well as even story elements. Like, you can meet somebody in a movie and you find out, oh, they're a lawyer, and this one's trying to be weaved into the story as if she helps criminals or something like that, and nefarious people. But she can find people, and Kraven tries to use her to look for people, and when it gets to the point where his brother's kidnapped, but that he's been trying to find her for a while, he finally does. And like, there were lines like, how did you find me? And it's like, well, it's been 16 fucking years. It's not like he just found you, in a hot minute. But, okay. The movie centers on Kraven's love for his brother, but he's kind of abandoned him in a sense, left him with the father, who's, I don't know, bought him a nightclub. And because of his voice thing, he can mimic anybody. He becomes a singer. And it's just, again, I wish there was more emotion and gravitas put into this movie. I've seen Aaron Taylor Johnson pull off some pretty good performances. Here it feels muted. Even some of the quips and jokes, I wasn't sure what they were going for, because they don't really betray their own tone. And they actually bring that into the movie in a sense where by the end of the movie, when Kraven's confronting his brother about where to go from here, it's like the end of the movie, his brother really gives him the number, and he's like, no, you're just like father, you're a killer, blah 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 blah. And it is kind of interesting in that sense, where throughout the movie, Kraven doesn't play a villain when you know he is. So I guess that's a prop for the movie. Like, give it a thumbs up in that way, where it's one thing in the movie I kind of liked, where he's doing his fucking thing. And it's that thing, like, real good villains don't see themselves as a villain. I think that's done well, if that matters. And I don't think it matters when, again, the performances, the scene-to-scene flow is not, not engaging. I guess that's a good word. And then it's like, okay, so there's a little twisty thing, and it's not a major one because you kind of see it coming. The Rhino is sent a video of Sergei doing his thing, breaking into a prison, because it's like one of the opening scenes besides the flashback, and kills one of his victims, and it's caught on some security cam or something like that, and it's sent to the Rhino, and now the Rhino's hunting for him. Again, I'm not sure if the fucking Rhino wanted him because his blood would cure his pain or something. I don't think they ever went there enough that it was cemented in my mind, because that's where my dungeon master, game master brain went. Like, okay, he sees this enhanced human. Now, there are no callbacks to, like, Spider-Man being in the world or other people. Maybe I missed it because it was so fucking dull. But I was waiting for something like that. But, so I'm thinking, okay, so the Rhino needs Kraven's blood, and he's going to use it to offset the drawbacks to his ability. I don't know if it's a fucking ability. Like I said, he describes it as like a rare disease type thing. And if he pulls out his feed bag, he turns, gray, and skin becomes like bulletproof and shit. He grows a horn. So it's, more in that, I guess the Sony animal thing with the fucking Garfield Spider-Man. And anyway, this doesn't work well for the movie. It kind of pulls away and maybe distracts you, but not in a good way, because you could have just had him become the Rhino at the end. Like, he's the Rhino, he's got a nickname for whatever reason, because he poaches rhinos, whatever the fuck. And then at the end, something happens, and when the credits come back, oh no, he's turning into, no. This one's saying right from the backpack, which I knew immediately. I was like, why is he wearing a fucking knapsack the whole fucking time? But it's revealed right away. He pulls it out, starts turning gray with the pain. But there comes a point at the end where Kraven's got to rescue his brother, and they fight, and it's a big fight fucking scene. Again, I wish it was all done better. I wish it was done with a little more oomph and engagement with the audience. It felt like everybody was walking through their lines and their scenes. And Callisto is like the little girl grown up. Has sort of an element in the movie that I thought was a little weird. Spoilers. This foreigner guy looks almost unbeatable. You can actually see him coming, and I think it has to do with his eyes, because they allude to that. And you see him like disappear and reappear, but from his point of view, it's more like he stops time. He counts to 3, and he could just take your gun, like do like flash type things, but you don't see him moving at super speed. And Kraven doesn't seem to be able to beat him. And then they do like a weird callback to a moment where Calypso is in Kraven's lair, let's call it, and she finds the statue, the old Batman, the statue's head. You pull the head back, it has a button there. I thought that was pretty cool, even though it was a callback to the old Batman show. And she presses the button, and screens, LED screens come down, weapons come out, and she grabs the bow and says, he says, oh, be careful with that. She's like, oh, I was good with archery. So guess what? Half hour later or whatever, Kraven can't beat the foreigner, and he starts gloating, and she shoots an arrow into his fucking eye. Spoilers, oh no, fucking movie's now no good. But you've got your stage set, you got the big battle, and there are like little things like they mention a doctor, because Dmitri Chameleon is Sergei Kraven's brother, brings it back at the end when he says he got help. And I'll get to that in a second, but it's in the Spider-Man universe. I think it's Miles Warren or some bullshit. It becomes a Jackal. Again, I wish it was engaging more when the scenes go from scene to scene, and I'm on this ride, let's call it plot, and this movie's almost hard to even describe Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, but it's there. And again, I'm just was like, all my senses were dulled watching the movie, and I'm waiting to get really engaged in it. Never really had that turning point. I giggled, I had fun with fucking Madam Web. As bad as that movie is, and I've said this 100 times now, yes, I watched the Green Lantern movie a lot. I just want to see Green Lantern and had fun with it. But I'm not here to debate if it's a good movie or not. And the little twisty type things at the end, Kraven comes out on top, and he visits his father, Russell Crowe, and it was Russell Crowe, spoilers, that gave the video to the Rhino. I'm like, who gives a fuck? Like, why did that have to mean anything in this fucking movie? It was just so surprising to me. Like, hold on a second. That opening scene type thing where he goes into the prison and kills people, older and with the serum in him, whatever, that really meant something throughout the movie when the Rhino's looking at it in a sense, but it doesn't feel like it earned anything. It's just like, okay, you caught this guy on security camera. Like, how many people could have fucking done that and shopped it around on YouTube? Like, it just didn't feel real. That this was the ultimate betrayal of the father. And Russell Crowe is like, I don't know what the fuck he's doing in these movies. I'm not one to make fun of people who are in shape or not, but he's, I guess he played a father well and a bad father, let's call it, right? So it was the father who betrayed Kraven, and he wants Kraven to take over and whatever the fuck and protect his brother. And Kraven just lets him get mauled by a bear. He walks away, the bullets are out of the gun, and Russell Crowe's mauled to death by a bear. You don't actually see that, so I guess he could still be alive. You know, bring him back as Frankenstein, whatever the fuck. And it kind of ends with Sergei going to his brother and saying, look, I didn't, pull your ass out of the fire so you can deal with the criminals. Because he's in the his club singing again. And I think his fingers were cut off. A couple of fingers were cut off. I don't know if they did a callback to that, but... And Kraven sees him interacting with some nefarious assholes. And he's like, yeah, well, I decided to keep Dad's business going. And it's spoiler. And again, this is all with no real gravitas, no real engagement with the audience or whoever's watching this movie. The brother at the end, he goes walk outside, and his brother turns into Kraven. And he's like, I can be anybody. And they did, I thought, was a cool transition. As you see, when he transforms from Kraven, because he duplicates him with Image, not his height and weight, though. I thought that was okay, And when he transforms back into his younger brother, there's a transition where he looks alien. And it's like a callback to the actual comic where the chameleon's face is, like bland with no nose type thing. And it's got maybe nostrils, but, it's a weird looking face. And then he turns into the brother again. And it's, I guess, in the, I can't believe I'm going to say the Sony shared universe. Like, oh my God. He's the chameleon, and he's really the chameleon now. Not only was he an expert at mimicking people's voices, but now he can look like anybody. Which, the next fucking scene should have been him, like, I don't know, famous pop star. Like where do you go from there? Because in this reality, again, they didn't pull out really Spider-Man's in it and so. Like I said, a name or two about the Doctor. But we know in the world that this is showing, in less than 3 days, he's multi-famous and whatever. If you can imitate, duplicate, you could sing, and you can you're fucking insanely rich, and you're like set for life, and there's no more issues to deal with. But it's that confrontation where Sergei has to realize Kraven that he is like his father. It's one of those, the brother trying to open his eyes, and it's, I don't know if I should say done a quarter of the way decently. And he says, your father left you a gift. Spoiler. Oh no, it's the classic comic book vest, which he puts on, and he sits in his chair. Right from the comic book. Yes, you can see the image when I went to do image search for my my thumbnail. It was it's all over the internet. It's the picture on my fucking thing for my video. The father took the line that mauled him and made a vest type thing out of it. And I thought like that was good in that sense. But it's at the end of the movie. It's like literally the last frames with Kraven sitting in his chair. And again, this movie's dull. It doesn't excite you in the way that it should be. The performances are lackluster and bland. But I'm gonna give them credit for the Kraven doesn't believe he's the villain type thing. I like Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven. There's something about him. Maybe just like one of those actors, gives it his all, but in this portrayal, it fit him. And it fit like you can see him like a really good director, or when all the pieces come together, could be really portrayed as a really good Kraven. Maybe great. And yeah, it takes a lot of moving parts to make a good movie. I get it. I try to give credit to even some B movies or movies that don't have a lot of money behind them or whatever, but you can see the love there. It doesn't have to be super blockbuster. And it could be confusing like Alien Romulus, it looks so good. The way it was shot and the scenes and the practical effects, but the fucking story just was not driving with me much. And you can say that about a lot of movies, but this movie's faults are gonna be its bane. Put this in the movies. It's not making a lot. I think I looked real quick. It made like a 30 million or whatever, and it cost 100 million. Like you could see this written everywhere. You should have just fucking tacked this onto a streaming service of some sort. I don't know. Maybe made it like a Daredevil series, so you can take these dull moments and improve on it week to week or episode to episode and correct things. But when put together, whether it's delayed for 2 years, it just doesn't feel epic enough. The performances don't feel in your face, riveting. Like there were times where you're supposed to be really into what's going on, whether it's character driven plot, betrayal, realizations, or pulse pounding action scenes that some were pretty good. And again, Aaron Taylor Johnson suited for this. He just felt like Kraven to me. Like, maybe he could have had fucking deeper fucking Russian accents, maybe. Like, I don't know. However, this movie lacks in so many areas that I don't think it pulls through. So I like Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven. I kind of like the actor as Rhino. But once he gets because there, like I said, there comes a climax fight with him where he just fucks the backpack and becomes the Rhino. And I wasn't totally against it, but when all your trappings are there and it doesn't fit well, it's almost the opposite. Like watching the first Terminator, it's so good, the first Terminator movie, that you did, even now watching it, you don't get taken back by the hokey stop animation and the what would be considered now bad special effects, but at the time were revolutionary, and then obviously elevated to T2, which is fucking amazing. But the first Terminator movie is still the best story for me, and it doesn't detract when I see shitty CG and stuff. I'll even grant things like, I'm a big fan of the Thing from 2011. I love that movie. I love how it's a prequel to The Thing that I love from John Carpenter. And I think there are stories, I'm not doing deep dives into it right now, but there's stories about studio meddling and practical effects were glossed over with CGI. I really didn't care. I watched that movie to this day. It's in my groupings of Halloween stuff and horror. I always watch it and then watch The Thing with Kurt Russell, and I love it. I'm not going to say it's a great movie, but I love it. It doesn't matter if the CGI is sometimes off-putting or how revolutionary the original was watching it and seeing some of the flaws back then, which are rare because that movie still holds up. The Thing from, I think it's 1982. But The Thing 2011, I love it. I watch it all the time. This movie misses the mark. It doesn't grab you. It doesn't cement itself in areas like, oh, this was the takeaway performance, or these scenes really came together. But as a whole, this is from beginning to end dull and toned down in a way that doesn't jive with me. I never really felt engaged. I never felt, that joy. Again, when I watched fucking Madam Web, I had stupid smiles on my face here and there. I'm a superhero geek, comic books. I have 19 long boxes in my house. I'm there, and I'm perfect to be set up to be fed these things that aren't that good that I'll enjoy. And this misses the market. And again, this is not angry shit like what I felt from Venom. When I'm watching Tom Hardy in Venom: The Last Dance, I was fucking annoyed. So annoyed by decisions they made, acting performances and stuff. This one, it just feels like I'm not connected. It was never really drawn in and carried by, the momentum and the strengths of that are there, and there are not many. So again, when all the pieces come together, Kraven the Hunter feels like a huge disappointment for me, a letdown. I'm not gonna trash it as ultimate shit. Although when I'm done, every time I'm done with my own podcast and I get my own thoughts out, I go and look and get the opinions of others so it doesn't taint my, podcast. I got a feeling this will be, well, I saw Wiki said it's critically bad, but whatever, but this is not going to be sitting well with a lot of people on the internet. I just could feel it. But it's not an annoying shit. I would like to see him as Kraven again. So there's one of the things I could say I like that could come out of this. He could make a great Kraven, I believe. The look, the physique, it fits well. And I think that's like the saving grace of this movie. Hold on. It's not a saving grace because it doesn't elevate the movie enough to make it a fun joyride that one of those, I like a bad movie again. This is not that, but Aaron Taylor Johnson, good Kraven, could be a great one, I think. Just has to be in a really good story, put it together. I mean, I guess maybe with Sony, with Spider-Man, Tom Holland, those are arguably a couple of good movies there. And you can arguably say that they're all enjoyable. I mean, even go back to Andrew Garfield, who doesn't get enough credit for what he did. One of those movies sucked bad. But the performances are there. There's engagement with Gwen Stacy. Like, there are elements. Like, I can't find much in this. And I guess that's where I'll end this. Kraven the Hunter, lackluster, disappointing, very little things to take out of it that are engaging enough for me to even talk about, and not really worth it. It's a missed opportunity. Even if you're doing a low-level character, an ancillary character that's not very well known, it doesn't matter. You tell a good story, and elements of that were here. I think I talked about that in one of my last podcasts, Gladiator 2. The elements were there for a good story, and they're here. Just didn't come together right. In any case, hope everybody has a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, whatever the fuck. I'm not sure the order I'll put these out. I try to keep two in the can these days, so I'll just put them out. But ho, 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 Merry Christmas. I love you all. My best to you and yours. Take care.